HOA story time. I'm a woman in my early 20s. I live with my partner in his early 30s. We recently moved into a condo, which I was a bit hesitant about because it seemed to be a tight-knit community with mostly retired elderly people. We purchased the condo outright and promptly moved in after inspections. We had a very unremarkable first 6 months, as in nothing really happened. There is a fee, I think it's around $1,000 a month, towards amenities and community events within the building. I don't use the common spaces, and most amenities, despite paying this fee to the association, cost upwards of $20, and parking costs $110 a month. Since we are owners, there is a board of other owners that get to vote on things, make plans, and gather at odd times during the day, such as 2 p.m. on a Tuesday for a few hours to discuss. They frequently are responsible for petitioning changes. When I had moved in, I wasn't explained to how it worked, where to go, nor introduced to the other members of the board. Oftentimes, these meetings are impossible to go to unless your day is empty and they are mandatory. We had decided that we didn't have much interest in the bureaucracy aspect of living in our home, and it didn't seem like that the other board members wanted us to partake. We often experience a lot of creepy behavior, like staring us down or pausing mid-group discussion to stare at us coming in or going out of the building. In the laundry or garbage room, our neighbors sometimes follow us and stare at us from the door or stand outside their unit. If we take the stairs, neighbors will come out of their unit to look at us through the glass window on the door. Or the property managers just stare us down when we enter into the lobby. Even if I smile and wave, they just stare, which is the common issue. A smile and a hello does nothing, and they stare at us, unblinking, and turn their heads to follow us until we're out of eyesight. Basically, we did not have a warm welcome at all, which is fine because we really just wanted to lead a non-disruptive life and be good, quiet neighbors. There is a big hierarchy in the building where owners look down on renters, and a lot of people presumed we were young renters that don't belong. Others seem to be condo-owning board members that mostly seem to dislike us inherently, and I don't really understand. Due to this, and not being interested in being treated like an unwelcome zoo animal, we don't go to the board meetings. Not as if they ever welcomed us or invited us. Frequently, we get emails to vote on representatives, and we waive our votes. The issue extends past the other owners and into the actual admin and property managers. Questions are met with passive aggression, condescending attitudes, or I'm sent on a duck hunt to track down people that I don't know and already don't like me. All of this began before we even got settled in. Mostly, I believe it's because we're young. We own, we have an equal say, and we're not welcome due to this. There's a cliquey association, basically. I don't plan to live here much longer, because I don't mind the creepy behavior, but it's like I'm almost being alienated and forced out, despite paying X amount of fees for things that I'm generally not interested in using because of this. Or it's inaccessible due to admin taking a very eye-roll attitude. I have been nothing but polite and quiet, and I do not stir the pot. Community events are more catered to the majority of board owners, like bingo night, elderly social mingles, specified as such, or barbecues that require an entrance fee. I don't partake because I don't want to pay to be stared down or whispered about. Anyways, my point is there a way to work with the association? This is my first HOA type place I've lived, and most places I do live have these issues. When I lived in mostly an unregulated building with no association, I still attracted negative attention, despite keeping my head down and being polite. This has more stakes, as I am being shoved out of something that I have to partake in, and it builds a narrative within a tight-knit community about me and my partner. I usually take the stance of shrugging my shoulders and allowing whatever narrative to take place, because, at the end of the day, I'm here to live in my home. It's causing a lot of weirdness, bullying, tension, and most importantly, I can't get any information out of anyone, even for events and votes that I'm obligated to partake in. I am very close to saying, screw this, I'm out, don't care, matching their energy with an equivalent rather than trying to be kind and say hello. It freaks me out, and my home doesn't feel like a home, and I can't go anywhere without negative attention or being followed by condo-owning association members. If they had something to say, it'd be a different story, but they just stare so blankly at me and peek around walls, doors, go into a common area, and don't respond to any kind of words. It's somewhat like a horror movie at times. Does anyone have any similar experiences? Advice or suggestions would be much appreciated. This one's tough because they're not literally breaking the law, but they're really just alienating you and treating you terribly. What would you do? Fairly aggressive girlfriend stole from my bank account, so I sent her academic career into a nosedive. Hosted by Just Wait, It Gets Better. And yes, it does. I'm a senior at a large state university. This happened in the first semester of my freshman year. I was selected for an honors type program that placed me in a co-ed dorm building with every other student in the program. As a dumb freshman, I rushed into a relationship with a freshman girl who lived right above me. We'll call her Megan. It was convenient for me to date someone who lived so close, but everyone else in our building hated Megan because she talked a lot and almost exclusively about herself. She bragged often about being a fairly aggressive, but somehow I overlooked that mile-wide red flag. Right after Thanksgiving break, at the end of an evening class, I got a call from my mom who noticed some unusual activity on my checking account. Back then, I had no credit card, so this debit card was my only access to my savings while I lived on campus. I rarely needed to buy anything during the semester, so I was puzzled to find that $104.29 had left my bank account over 2 weeks in the form of 6 Grubhub food orders. At this point, I trusted Megan, but I decided to ask her about the money right away. She denied any involvement and suggested that I cancel my debit card. After a really long phone call to the bank, I did just that. Next, I reached out to Grubhub customer service on Twitter. Hey, my card was stolen and used for food orders on these dates. Can I have the receipts? They sent me the first and last receipts, but they had to redact the personal info of the account holder. I say redact in quotes because they just used the Snapchat draw tool and Megan's name was still clearly visible on both receipts. What's more, the most recent receipt was only 2 hours old. She was probably still eating when I chopped up my debit card. Now it's worth noting that she and I both had unlimited dining plans, paid for by our respective parents, and we lived 500 feet from the nearest dining hall. She didn't need to order food, and she definitely didn't need my money to do it. So I texted her again. Hey, I have the receipts from Grubhub. Are you sure you didn't make those orders? Her reply,
F you for suspecting me.
Fairly aggressive, wouldn't you say? I hatched a plan to collect security camera footage of her picking up the order from that evening. However, by midnight, Megan arrived at my door in tears and confessed to everything. Plus, she admitted to being a serial shoplifter. Exhausted, I sent her away and decided to deal with everything in the morning. By the next day, everyone in our building seemed to know what was going down, probably because Megan had already begun broadcasting her version of the story. I sent Megan a breakup text and decided that the $104.29 was a loss. At least I escaped unscathed, right? Well, less than 2 days later, she entered my room when I wasn't looking. I was sitting at my desk when I noticed her standing silently behind me.
Give me my stuff. Where's my stuff?
What stuff?
You know.
I did not know. She tore through the room looking for something that she refused to identify. Just as quick as she came, she was gone. And I locked the door because obviously, this wasn't over yet. Within a minute, she was back. She stood outside my door knocking and demanding that I let her back inside. The knocking quickly got more violent. She started shouting,
I know you're effing in there. Open the mother effing door.
Mind you that we lived in this building with students in our program who all know each other, and all of them could hear her. Pretty quickly, Megan was rattling the handle of my door. Next, she began throwing herself at it, shoulder first, trying to break it down. I lived next door to my RA, but judging by the lack of any intervention, he was elsewhere. So I whipped up my phone and texted him to send backup. Meanwhile, I saw my heavy wooden door bending and buckling. I even heard it crack a bit. My RA was on duty in another building, so he sent 3 of his colleagues to de-escalate the situation. They brought Megan downstairs, where she revealed that the stuff that she wanted was just a t-shirt and the keychain that she gave me for my birthday. Whatever, man, I'll let her have those. I still just wanted this to be over. However, once I shared my story with the resident life staff, they filed university paperwork to place a no-contact order between me and Megan. They also recommended that I contact the campus police, who then told me I should get my stolen money back in small claims court. I mean, I couldn't even get there without a car or money to pay for an Uber. Sorry, Judge Judy. At the request of the campus police, I also contacted the Title IX office at my school, sending them the story of everything you've read so far. They were interested, to say the least, although I didn't want any trouble. I just wanted a clean breakup and a fresh start. But a Title IX representative informed me that they were bringing 3 misconduct charges against Megan: theft, threatening and violent behavior, and inciting an intervention by university staff. The representative asked me to serve as a witness in Megan's disciplinary hearing the next semester. I tentatively agreed, right before the representatives set the hearing date for February 14th. Valentine's Day. I thought it was a joke, but they really did that. When the first day of the hearing finally arrived, the no contact order was still in effect, but a few of my friends had kept close tabs on Megan. For starters, she failed all of her classes in the fall. Someone in my math course confessed that Megan had tried to sleep with him while she was dating me, and he had to repeatedly tell her no. Even worse, Megan kept telling a twisted version of the whole story to try and turn my friends against me. So when I found out that she had found a new boyfriend, it felt good to know that the V-Day disciplinary hearing ruined whatever evening plans that they might have made. I arrived alone at the disciplinary board hearing, unsure of what to expect. The board consisted of grad students, and the hearing was expected to run into the night. Unlike me, Megan did not come alone. She brought both of her parents as character witnesses, and that wasn't even a thing here. This wasn't a real courtroom, as you'll soon see. And that's not all. Megan's parents also paid a lawyer to defend her against the charges. The board knew that was unnecessary, but Megan's parents believed so strongly in their daughter's innocence that they'd already paid this three-piece suit to make her case. In the name of fairness, the board members offered me pro bono legal representation, a junior economics major who we'll call Jimmy. Jimmy had already read my account of the events from the fall, and thanks to my screenshots of Grubhub receipts, he said there was an okay shot of the charges sticking. Then I told him something I'd kept secret for months. When Megan tried to break down my door, and I whipped out my phone to text my RA, I also filmed the whole thing. Jimmy couldn't get enough of the video. There was Megan kicking and screaming and clearly trying to break into my dorm room. It was all the evidence that I needed, and no one saw it coming. In the hearing, when the time came for me to make the case against Megan, Jimmy played the video on a big screen in front of everyone. The room went insane. In that instant, I realized that Megan really had convinced everyone that I was the liar. In her version of the story, I gave her permission to buy food using my account. She told her parents that she'd ask me politely for her belongings, which I'd rudely hidden from her in my dorm room. In Megan's story, I was the sociopath trying to ruin her reputation. Before I unveiled the video, it was her word against mine. I still didn't want revenge, even after finding out that Megan tried to cheat on me. But when I saw her parents flipping out at the video, "Why didn't you tell us you did this?" and her lawyer raising hell, "This evidence was not provided in the pre-trial disclosure," and a board member standing over him, "Sir, this is not a court of law, please return to your seat," and him shouting, "Objection," and her replying, "We don't have objections, this isn't a court of law," and Jimmy, my new best friend, just trying not to laugh out loud. That's when I realized how good revenge can feel when it's fair and deserved. The board found Megan responsible on all 3 charges, and my side of the bench recommended the university terminate her housing contract and force her to pay restitution. Her side recommended only restitution and a reprimand. The board compromised. Her family paid back most of the money she stole, most because 2 of the 6 orders had the same price, and the lawyer convinced the board that I'd duplicated an order, and Megan was forced to move into a different dorm building. This probably would have helped her anyway because every student in our program's building knew everything she'd done and lied about. They would not speak to her, and no one wanted to be her roommate. By the time she had to move buildings, she'd already failed all of her courses again. Having paid for her tuition, her unused dining plan, her lawyer, and her restitution, Megan's parents finally pulled her out of school. Where are they now? Last I heard, Megan returned as a part-time student, but I never saw her again because the no contact order still stands. I'm now Facebook friends with the guy Megan tried to seduce. Oh, and Jimmy and I connected on LinkedIn. As for me, well, I no longer date fairly aggressive people. Here's our next story. Thanks for listening along. You'll enjoy this one too. Last summer, I was at a cousin's wedding. His bride and her family had been close with ours since before I was born, and the couple had known each other since they were toddlers, so it was a particularly exciting event for both sides of the family. However, after the ceremony was over and the party had only just started, one of the bridesmaids decided to announce her own engagement. The attention was immediately taken away from the newlyweds and brought to the bridesmaid, who I'll call Sarah, and her equally smug fiancé. My cousin's wife, I'll call her Emma, didn't make a scene or utter a single negative word about Sarah. She looked like she was on the verge of tears, but she kept grinning and acted very happy for the other couple. This was unusual, as Emma is typically quite confrontational and speaks her mind no matter the consequences. Sarah later picked Emma to be her maid of honor at her own wedding, which took place last weekend. I wasn't there for it, but my cousin sent me some of the best bits on Snapchat and explained the whole situation. This is where the fun begins. Emma's two much younger sisters were the flower girls at Sarah's wedding. At the very last moment, Emma switched out the white petals in their baskets to blue ones that she had secretly brought with her. She told her sisters not to say anything about it or let the bride see them until it was time to scatter them down the aisle. Sarah looked very confused upon seeing the blue petals, which didn't coordinate whatsoever with her theme, but of course, she didn't say anything about it in the moment. Most of Sarah's other bridesmaids were also Emma's friends, had attended Emma's wedding, and were in on Emma's scheme. At the reception, Emma's sisters and the other bridesmaids were tight-lipped when Sarah began demanding to know why there were blue petals. The wedding planner ended up getting a lot of abuse for not checking the flower girls' baskets before they walked down the aisle. Finally, it was time for the speeches. The speeches took place in front of a massive screen, displaying a loop of photos with Sarah and her husband, which had been compiled by Emma. Emma took the remote that controlled the presentation screen, and at first, she showed some pre-approved humorous photos of Sarah with Emma and the other friends to facilitate a couple lighthearted jokes. Then, at the very end, Emma said to Sarah that she must be wondering why there were blue petals instead of the white ones originally planned. That was when Emma displayed the last slide from her presentation. Emma announced in front of everyone that she was 5 months pregnant and that she just discovered the baby was a boy, hence the blue petals. The last slide, her ultrasound picture. There were some shocked yells and gasps. Sarah had a fit, but those involved in the scheme cheered so loudly that I sincerely regret watching the Snapchat recording with headphones. Apparently, Sarah had been very nasty to her bridesmaids before, driving several of them away and forcing the others to pay ridiculous amounts of money for dresses. Emma and my cousin were eventually thrown out of the party, but they were all smiles. Sarah's fuming mother went to confront her outside, and Emma retorted with, "Gentle, gentle, I'm pregnant." I reckon Sarah doesn't speak to the majority of those bridesmaids anymore. HOA Karen disregards my safety for the HOA's appearance, but I'm disabled. Click the video on your screen so you don't miss what happens to HOA Karen, and I'll see you there.